Mubashar Shar playing an aggro Loam deck, an Abzan colored aggro Loam deck against someone whose name I can't quite see, playing Eldrazi. Yeah. David
Ellis on Eldrazi.
Playing Eldrazi. Both players at 1 and 2, so we have. So the both players have quite a lot of ground to make up before if they want the top 8. Excellent choice of sleeves there from Mubs. I won't say what that stands for, but I'm sure many people who are watching will know.
I treated myself to a set of those after I played a tournament with Lantern, and I was only resolving the Sun Droplet triggers every other turn, because for some reason I thought it was, well, like most cards at the beginning of your upkeep, and Sun Droplet
you're
unusually...
better than this, Alex.
I know.
You're a judge!
The funny thing is, although I thought I knew what the card did, I don't think I'd actually read one in several years when I put it in the deck.
In Mirrodin Limited.
Yeah. Right, yeah, quite unusually for a Magic card, it triggers in every upkeep rather than just your upkeep.
Were you playing Painlands as well?
Yes, yeah. So the game there is to net points of life.
Okay, so we have a Tonal Wasteland from Mubs, and there's going to be a Tonal Eldrazi Temple right in the corner for us there. Can we get David to move his deck across so we can see whether it's great? Make sure when he places his graveyard we know where it is. To David's left, so it's more on screen. No, David. Well, Mub's deck is in his hand. David's just slightly off screen. I don't know where his graveyard's going to be placed, but a lot of cards are in the bottom corner of the deck, the corner of the screen there. Either way, we've got a turn 2 Windswept Heath fetching for Savannah for Mubashar there. Casting Stoneforge Mystic, a nice shiny set foil there. I don't know what he's going to be fetching here. There we go.
I think I quite like Batterskull in this situation.
There is a Batterskull in Mubs' hands here, but he is going for Umazawa's Jitte, which seems like an interesting choice. Depends.
So I would want the Jitte against a deck with smaller creatures where the -1/-1 counters are realistically going to kill them. The issue is here, I mean, this is the card that I was thinking of.
Okay, so we have a very interesting hand here. Not a lot of castable spells here, because we cannot cast Hymn, Turek, Kasali Primage, or Replicate off these lands. There's a second Stoneforge Mystic, a Maze of Ith, and the Umazawa's Jitte previously searched for with Stoneforge Mystic. I think the correct pick here is the second Stoneforge, because the Jitte doesn't seem particularly powerful against your 4/4, and none of those spells can be cast. Shame you can't take. Interesting. He's going to be trying to protect his hate cards, I assume.
I am anticipating that David wants to try and play Chalice on 2. Because
that's a very good shout.
In this position, that counters everything in
apart from the Replicate, yeah. I think you're right, that's a very good point. Another Stoneforge off the top here from Mubs. Not doing particularly much. I think he only got the 2 artifacts in his deck, right? The Batterskull and the Umazawa's Jitte.
I don't have the deck list in front of me, but I think that's correct. Although it is a Chalice deck as well. But that's not searchable. The equipment are just the Batterskull and the Jitte. So I like the Batterskull because it trades with almost every creature in David's deck. It won't trade with the Reality Smasher, although the Germ token plus the Stoneforge will. And then there's the Endless one, which I suppose could potentially come down on a large enough value of X that it survives.
There's going to be at least 4 with this mana base so far, and then there's another land there. So the Expedition Wasteland. And
David actually has a really interesting predicament here on how best to use the Wasteland. I can imagine that the Maze of Ith is going to get very annoying for David, so he might want to take that out. But Mubs only has 1 colour source, so the temptation to take that away must be very strong.
I think, considering the makeup of Mubs' hand, I think I like taking the Savannah, but I could see arguments for both.
And then finally, of course, you even have the option to Wasteland the other Wasteland while it's tapped, because David's own lands are very valuable, and wanting to stop Mubs from wasting one of his lands is a valid line as well.
What else we got in David's hand? We've got a Karakas, a Warping Whale, a Chalice of the Void, and something else. And none of those castable at the moment off the lands that Dave has untapped. So Mubs has free reign this turn if he draws a land of any, like a relevant land, but has not drawn. I believe is that Sylvan Safekeeper off the top.
quite see.
I know we'll just pass the turn back, and there's another wasteland off the top there. That's a confusing reveal of the Shar, as the chat points out, of putting the revealed Batterskull from Stoneforge into his land pile. So we'll resolve an Oblivion Sower trigger off the top from David, and we'll reveal a single land in the form of an Expedition Verdant Catacombs, and we'll exile, I believe it's a Chainer's Edict, a Scavenging Ooze, and a Forgotten Mox Diamond. A lovely altar there. We're pre-approved by the judge. Okay, what is the play here? I'm assuming David's going to make an attack with his 5/6 Eldrazi, 5/8 rather, Eldrazi Mimic, and probably his thoughts. Oh no, he can't make any attacks because of the Mazavith and the impending Batterskull. So
It's gone away again, but I didn't touch it.
okay, so Mumps' main face here, tanking a lot. I don't know what the door off the top was. There's a Hymn-Turek still in hand that we know about, and the Kasali Pride Mage that's been pulled to the front, but still not castable. So I think he. Okay, so we've got a Germ, Perfrost, God of the Forge, tip card, masquerading as a Germ token here. So we have a third Stoneforge, and then just a passing of the turn. So we've either got no castable spells in hand for Mubs, or just another equipment that we are looking at. Cavern Naming Eldrazi for David there, and I believe it's going to be a Chalice on 2.
There we go.
This it feels pretty good for David right here. He can now start making attacks into this board state as well. Oh no, because the Eldrazi Mimic's now only a 2/1 again, so still no real profitable attacks here. So there is some time here for Mubs to generate some kind of advantage. I think I like trading the skull.
I would definitely like to trade with the Thought-Knot here, just to draw an extra card.
Because if Mobs are to land off the top, you can just bounce the boss skull back and replay it with the Stoneforge to make more value.
And we can untap the other attacker and take no damage this turn.
Yep, that seems like the play. I like that. And also with the draw off of Thought-Knots here, you need to hit that. He needs to hit some more coloured sources. He is absolutely kind of.
So what we're really missing here is another mana source that will allow us to start picking up and resetting the Batterskull.
So there's a Savannah off the top from the. Was that basic planes? That is a. I believe that's a very basic old school planes there for Shar.
So I think what's going to really shut the door in terms of Mubs' chances of winning is the double wasteland on the other side of the table.
Yeah.
David's strongest line next turn is almost certainly to take out 2 of Mubs' land. Probably the coloured source and the maze, or possibly even the Savannah and the wasteland, just to make sure that Mubs isn't casting any more spells.
It's interesting. What's the card? Do you know what the card at the front of Mubs' hand is there? I can't quite see it.
I can't tell.
There is a Warping Whale there on the side on David Ellis. What do we think he's looking to use that card for? We have a judge call here.
I think that's just asking for Oracle text on Mazavith.
Okay. Endless one off the top. Excellent draw. Which can be made for 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 8. A theoretical. Oh no, only 7. There's no Urborg and there are no fetchable lands for that Verdant Catacombs.
Definitely would like to use the wastelands for the Stone Rain effect at this point. Just
specifically this turn, because we know that the Batterskull is going to come back into Mother Sense. We need to draw another land to activate Stoneforge.
It just takes away the remaining options for the opponent. There's no reason to try and win more with yet another large creature when you can.
I must say, I think despite the mana screw, Mubs has played this game very well. Made the correct trades, made the correct plays, just left open mana for Batterskull and Stoneforge all the time, not committing things like Kasali Pride Mage that aren't actually doing much to the field. I mean, obviously not doing much mana now the Chalice is down, but previously it wouldn't have actually made a particularly good impact on the board state. And just leaving open mana for Stoneforge has been very useful. So here we go, the play you talked about earlier, the double wasteland play.
We'll take the coloured source away, and
those are in the bin, David. There will be a floating of mana in response, and that wasteland, that Mazavith will have no kind of interaction.
So we are going to be able to reset the Batterskull if we tap the other 2 lands.
So there was a floating of mana in response, yes. Yeah. So an end one for 6 coming down, going to trigger the Eldrazi Mimic. So it looks like Mubs has missed his chance to return Batterskull here, which I think is probably going to be the death knell for this game, and he's already a game down. So this will be the end of, if Mubs can't find a way of generating some more mana, this will be the end of his game and the end of his tournament, most likely. Also, it looks like we're having a discussion here about using Mubs' floating mana at the beginning of before going to combat. David did not announce beginning of combat. No vehicles to crew here. So, what is Mubs' play going to be? Is a choice of putting it's a return Batterskull, which I think is probably the correct play here.
He can even afford to block one of the attackers here if that's what he wants to do. But
probably the endless one, as it's a 6 power.
Blocking with both would be a mistake because he does need one.
We can double up Matter Shaper for value because it's a trade.
Oh, this is true. Yeah, it will only kill one of them.
So we'll take 11 down to 12 here. Yep. There'll be a Matter Shaper trigger here, and it will
See
reveal.
what comes off the top.
Matter Shaper to Matter Shaper, my favourite thing to do with the Matter Shaper. Combination. That is a City of Traitors off the top for David, which is a.
Oh,
that is
brutal.
an excellent. That is a very brutal hit. The next exiled Stoneforge Mystic. There is, however, a back and the third Mystic in Mubs' hand here, so it's not the worst thing that could happen, but it is taking him down another turn. Maelstrom Pulse off
the
the
real
top.
issue there is losing the turn rather than the card.
Yeah.
It means using the Wasteland there is functionally a concession. He's left himself with nothing else to do.
And there's a 2-turn, I think. And that's 12. That's 12.
Go,
Yeah,
nice
Mubs
handshake.
realised it was dead, and he will scoop it up. And that is 2-0 to David Ellis with Eldrazi, taking down Abzan Loam in 2 games. I think Mubs just happy to be here, though. Jovial, very stoic in concession there. I believe the text on Oblivion to it is actually that you get to keep the cards afterwards, right? That's how it works. David just mentioning to Mubs there that he was going to specifically back his foil expedition, his expedition of Catacomb, for anyone tries to criticise, trying to accuse him of any kind of theft in this tournament. But yeah, some good spirits between the players there. Nice to see the atmosphere between the players is still good even after that mana screw there from Mubs. Right, we're back into the feature match area. Welcome, it's the Northern League Invitational here in Huddersfield at IQ Games. Stuart Jackson here with Alex Roebuck. So what do you think of Eldrazi's place in the Mets game?
It's a very, very strong deck. There's a couple of things in particular that give it the strength that it has. I mean, first of all, any deck in Legacy that can make Chalice on turn 1 has sort of a minimum percentage of games that it's going to win for free.
Yep,
because
that's very true.
Legacy is defined by a lot of its 1-mana spells: Delver of Secrets, Ponder Brainstorm, Deathrite Shaman, Lightning Bolt, Swords of Plowshares, Sensei's Divining Top. Secondly, because it's all colourless, it gets to really take advantage of what we call the soul lands, which is all these lands that produce more than 1 mana. The supposed downside of them is that none of them make coloured mana. Well, Eldrazi just don't care. And then second, we've got a lot of these incredibly efficient threats that came out of the most recent Zendikar block, Thought-Knot Seer and Reality
More
Smasher.
specific Oath of the Gatewatch with those two.
Yes, yeah.
That's caused the modern Eldrazi winter that led to the banning of Ivy.
There's a really interesting interaction of the lands that came in the first Zendikar block that were designed to help you cast the very expensive Eldrazi, and then the Eldrazi from the second Zendikar block, which were not as expensive anyway. So those tools to help you ramp, plus these creatures that are quite a lot
fairly
cheaper,
costed,
it combines in this way that gives you threats that are just incredibly cheap and incredibly
below
strong.
the curve,
Yeah, exactly.
That's why we saw things like Eldrazi Skyspawner win a modern Pro Tour.
A turn 2 Thought-Knot Seer, especially on the play, is frankly disgusting. You know, not only have I just Thought Seized you and taken your best card away, but I've also got a 4/4 in the bargain.
And if you're going to, you can take the removal spell that would otherwise have killed your Thought-Knot Seer to regain back the card advantage.
Absolutely.
And it's so punishing, especially in multiples or if your opponent only has the one removal spell. And especially for mulligans as well. If people mulligan, you get Thought-Knot Seer onto the game's over.
I also really like Reality Smasher because as powerful as a lot of the cards are in Legacy, there's certain things that are broadly missing from the format. And oddly enough, Trample is incredibly, incredibly rare. Unless you're playing Siege Rhino in Nickfit, you probably haven't seen a creature with Trample in Legacy.
Villain of many formats.
You get situations where your plan against an opposing creature deck might be to use True Name Nemesis as a way of keeping the attacker out for a long time because it's not going to die to damage. Well, it only soaks up one of the power. The other 4 is going to roll over the top. At 5/5, it's big enough to tackle most of the fair creatures in the format. Obviously, notwithstanding cheating Grizzlebrand into play or something. Haste is incredibly relevant as well because a deck like Miracles that attempts to tidy the board a lot might get caught off guard by this 5/5 jumping in off the top of the deck. So it's just sort of attacking the board on an angle that most of the decks aren't prepared for. And as I say, Chalice is just huge.
And he plays 4 copies of Fall of Amethyst in the sideboard as well. So we think with one of the less good matchups for the kind of creature-based mid-range decks and aggressive decks in Legacy is the combo decks.
Yeah.
And being able to play your hate card on turn 1 shuts out so many, like a turn 1 Thorn and Storm has a real trouble, has to find the Abrupt Decay or like Wish for a Meltdown or whatever to try and get through that. It's very, very difficult.
The only real downside of the deck is it doesn't really have any method of correcting its draw. A lot of decks in Legacy play Brainstorm. There's others that run Divining Top or even Sylvan Library that allow them to sort of have some measure of card selection. The Eldrazi deck can't afford to run anything like that, so it is a little bit at the mercy of the top deck, and if it can't come crashing out of the gates, it only has to hit land instead of spell for 2 turns, and the opponent can really take advantage of that. But the power of the deck in the early game is incredible, and its ability to disrupt the opponent while attacking is really, really strong.
It gets good answers because it gets to play all its dust if your opponent's playing a very similar kind of board-based deck, but not particularly in the mirror. So the only really bad matchup for it would be very, very all-in Belcher-style combo decks that you have no interaction against if you're on the draw. So, or you don't have the Soul Land for your Thorn of Amethyst.
If you force their first play and then wasteland their first land, there's a good chance that you're beating them. The fact that its lands are so powerful means that losing the lands is even more of a drawback than it would be for a different deck in the format.
Okay, it sounds like we have a deck tech almost ready up in the studio.
I'm not sure who they've got, but we'll see.
I have no information on that yet, but we shall be heading down up there in very shortly, a very short amount of time. Who's this with? So I have a blue-white control deck. There's your Sam Luka-Rolf is going to be doing
this is looking at his modern deck for the following round.
Modern blue-white control in modern, which I believe a couple of people in the field are also playing, which should be an interesting find. I know that's been a very interesting choice in modern. A lot of very fast combo decks in modern. Trying to find the right answer is very interesting. So we're very interested to hear for what Sam has to say about that. So we're heading out there very shortly. Again, if you've just tuned in, this is the Northern League Invitational at IQ Games in Huddersfield with Stuart Jackson, Alex Roebuck. We're just heading up to the studio area for a deck tech with Sam Luka-Rolf and blue-white control.